So this is a hyperbolic paraboloid question. I don't know whether it's a mock question or a certain year, I can't remember. But it's the one that we're going to do today, just to go back over this, so what we would have done before Christmas. So we're asked here to draw, it says it's sort of an unusual shaped watch face. It says to draw the given plan. And the fact that it says that first gives us a hint that that's where we should start. It says and elevation of the hyperbolic surface. And as we've done before, then it asks for an end view. So again, we just need to be careful with a bit of space over here. So we're going to start with this view and we're going to keep it over well on the left hand side. So the height, I know the elevation is 40, so I'm going to come down maybe 60, maybe even 70. I don't think the plan is going to be massive, so I think that's probably okay. So I'm going to draw my ground line there. So as I said, I'm going to start with the plan, that's what it says, but in order for me to have space to start with the plan, I want to make sure that I have space here. Right, so we know that it's a 60-degree angle and that's going this way, and they don't show us a 90-degree mark, but we can assume that it's 30 degrees the opposite way. So we can see if we slide up our set square there, we can see that we're happy enough that that's 30 degrees, just to be sure. But we're happy enough with that. So the only problem here is exactly how far to come down to start. So I'm going to start with point B. Usually I'd start with A, but I'm not sure exactly how far it is, and also I don't want to come way down and have a big gap here, because then it might start to come onto my picture. So I'm going to put my set square like so, and what I'm going to do is I need a measurement of 100. So I'm going to roughly get my other set square and I'm going to put it on so that I can see a size of 100. This must be a square. I don't know if it says, yeah, the face is square and plan, so it says it there. So 100, we'd assume if there wasn't given anywhere that it would be 100. So that looks pretty good. Okay, it doesn't look like there's too much of a gap there. So I'll pick there as my starting point and I'll draw a line. Okay, and it looks like I'm keeping fairly close to the edge. So it is important that when I'm marking that 100, sorry, that square isn't a great one because the measurements are more off it. When I'm marking my 100, that I want to keep this point here, which is going to be point A, fairly close to this. Okay, and I also want to keep this point here, B, fairly close to this. So that gives me a good size. So what I'm going to do anyway is I'm going to continue on making a square. So I'm going to go 100 this way. We'll bring that down to meet it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write a measurement here just so that you can see a good point to start. Obviously on the day of an exam it will be fine because you'll have loads of space. So if we came down, say 10 more and came in 60 for point B, that would be a good starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heavy out that outline. Now if we remember from before, the best way of attempting this question is to do a bit of the elevation, a bit of the plan, and a bit of the end view. So what we have done is we've done the plan there, right? I'm just going to label my points when I'm at it. But instead of drawing in the green generators, what I'm going to do is I am going to get the elevation completed, and then I'm going to get the end view. Often people leave the end view till the end, and it's a bad habit for two reasons. One, in case you'd run out of time, because typically there'll be like roughly a third of the marks for each section. But two, sometimes people forget to do it all together. Okay, so this will make sure that that doesn't happen. So I'm going to project up this. C is on the ground, D is the one up in the air. So I'll measure at later stage. B is also up in the air, and then A is on the ground. Okay, so again, the same as the plan, make sure you label these because it's critical in order to get the pieces marked. I suppose I should have kept B maybe a little bit further down that I wouldn't get confused if this was B. But B, as you can see, is 40 millimeters up in the air. So there's B. And D is also 40 millimeters. So there's D. So make sure you write your letters so that you can see them, right, that they're clear and you're not going to get confused over which is which. So A went, no, I'm saying that my B there isn't the best looking B. Okay, so A went to B, went to C, went to D, and then went back to A. So we'll do exactly the same thing here. A went to B, B went to C, C went to D, and D went back to A. Okay, so there's my heavy outline. Extend on my ground line a small bit. But I'm happy with my elevation so far, apart from obviously, as I said, the generators I haven't put in. So what I'm going to do now is, instead of filling out what I have, I'm going to go on and do the end view. Okay, so I'm just trying to see if I've a little different color. There we go, an orange. So again, just make sure that's the 45-degree set square that you use. I'm going to project down a line here upon which to bring everything over and up to. So we can start with D. D will come across. A will come across. C will come across. And then B will come across. And while I'm at it, I'll bring across that line. Okay, so this is B. That's B brought across. That's B found there. So I'll label it as I go. There's B. C is here. So C was on the ground, and that's C. A again is on the ground. So there's A. And this will just fit. So the dimensions that I give are pretty critical. Well, it doesn't matter if you draw it onto the picture, but it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. Okay, so I haven't brought that one far enough. So the end view could be something completely weird, so that's why we need to make sure that we label the points as we go along. So just be careful. So A goes to B, goes to C, goes to D, and goes back to A. So it's again the same order of what we did from before. So again, for most of you probably won't need to look at much of this, but for some of you, just for revision, it might be useful. So C goes to D, and D goes to A. So it's actually pretty much this upside down. Okay, but that's the main outline of the question. So I have the plan view, the front view, and the end view done. So what I want to do now is I want to put on the generators. Now, if we want to know how to split the generators, what you want to do is you want to count the number of spaces, not the number of lines. So if you count the number of gaps, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gaps. Now, again, depending on your level of skill, what you could do is you could just say, well, that's 100. And that's what I normally do. I just mark 20, 40, 60, and 80, right? And then I'll draw, no, it's the other set square that we're using. This one doesn't have measurements, but, or not clear measurements, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's what I would typically do. But particularly if you're hoping to do higher level, they may expect you to do a division line method, or to show that you can split a line equally into 5 equal parts. So I'm just going to draw a bit here, but it's not going to get in the way. Just for the sake of putting it on, I'm going to put 5 equal marks, so 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 apart. I'm going to join the last one, and I'm just going to use sliding set squares. You could alternatively use your adjustable set square. I want have space to get my adjustable set square in here. So I'll use sliding set squares here. And if you check the measurement of them, they should also be in the same spot. But I'm just going to put that in there just so the examiner can see that I know how to do it. Okay. It wouldn't be critical if you forgot how to do that and you're not sure how to put that in. It's more important that you get the generators drawn. So I'm going to use a green. So if you happen to have a green color pencil, I would use it. Keep it consistent with what they use. Well, they always want to use green in this, but you can see the green used there. So that's the plan view completed in full. So what I want to do now is I want to get these generators up here. And in order for me to do that, it's critical that I number them. Now there's different ways that you can number them, but or index them as it's called. But the way I always do it is I always call this 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4, 4. And then when you go around the side, I'll call this 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, and 8, 8. Right? Some people will call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The problem I find with that is that if you call this 2 and then you're not sure whether it does 2 join to 1 or does 2 join to 3. So this way it helps to solve that. It's not technically the most correct way of indexing, but it is a way that reduces the likelihood of you having mistakes. So what I want to do now is I want to bring up point 4. Okay. Now typically the way I would do it, I just do this on one of them. I bring it up and make sure it crosses both. And the reason I do that is because if I cross both and I accidentally mark the wrong one for 4, I'll have still found the point. So I'll probably get a mark for finding the point, even if I accidentally used the wrong one. But I'm not going to do that for every single one in my case, because it's going to be an awful lot of pink lines. So if we look for 4, 4 is on the line BC. So it's actually the bottom one. Okay, so once I'm happy that that's the bottom one, there's 3, there's 2, and there's 1. And critical that I write the numbers on them as I go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want to find 1, 2, 3, 4, and again, this is on the line between A and D, so that's why it's critical that I've marked them. And there's 1 on the line between A and D. 2, 3, and 4 is pretty much on top of 1. Okay, may even be exactly on top of 1 if I depend on the thickness of the markers. So again, I'm going to join 1 to 1. So if 1 joined to 1 in plan, it must join the same in elevation. 2 to 2, 3 to 3, and 4 to 4 pretty much ends up on top of that line. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with 5, 6, and 7. So again, double check I've done it right. A and B, so that's the line that I'm marking it on. And if you copied, you had made a mistake at that stage, you could go back and change them. So 5, 6, 7, and 8. And this one is, again, I'll just double check it's on DC. 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So it's important that I draw them as a line to show they're crisscrossing the two things rather than marking a dark heavy point. Okay, so it should be the crossing of 2 lines. So there's a lot of them sort of on top of each other, but that's my view. Now, typically what I would do is I'd also sketch in this, which I'm going to come back to at the end just to show that that's a curve. Okay, but I'll leave it for the minute. I might take a photo of that and then come back to the end. So what I want to do now is I want to get the same thing in the end view. So don't forget these green lines have to come over to the end view. So there's 2 ways. You could bring them this way and up, but typically it's easiest to bring them across. You just need to be careful that because you can do it in one line, but you just need to be careful that you get the right one. So again, 5 is on the line CD, and I'd also double check at this stage it was 5 on CD. Here it was. So CD is this sloped line. So there's 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that goes to 5 on AB. As I said, double check 5 is on AB here. Here's AB. Sorry, I should have written my numbers on these just to make sure I don't get confused. Okay, so 5 is on AB, which is in my slope line. 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 7. Okay, so 5 will go to 5, will pretty much be on top of that line. 6 will go to 6. 7 will go to 7. And 8 will go to 8. Okay. And then finally we'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 1, 2, this is 1. Just be careful because it wasn't clear. 1 is on the line CB. No, sorry, it's not. Sorry, that's 4. Okay, it's just that 1 and 4 were on top of each other. So that's actually 4. That's why it's important that I checked here. So 4 was the one closest to C. So that's on the line CB, which is here. So 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, we label them. And then 1 is on the line AD. Okay. So a good sort of hint as well of whether you're on the right track is if they're sloped. If they tended to be all straight across from each other, you've done something wrong. More than likely what you've done is you've labelled them the wrong numbers. You've, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got 4, 3, 2, 1. But there's the question completed. So I have the question pretty much completed. Now what I'd always do is I'd always sketch in the curve. They generally expect you to, as worth a mark or two. Sometimes it can be, it can make the difference between getting full marks and losing a few marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly, that green wouldn't be the best colour. I don't really want to do it in dark. Let's see, sorry, I have a darker green here. I didn't want to do it brown. Actually, I'll just take a photo of that first. Actually, I don't know if I can without stopping the video and that may corrupt it. So I'm just going to sketch my curve there. And the same here. So you just go over this with a darker line. I just want it to stand out a bit. Okay, just to make sure that you don't lose a mark there. And that's the question completed.